Hi, I'm Casey.
I'm Jeremy.
Welcome to our farm, Cornucopia Orchards.
We've forged ahead and are moving fast with the walls while not being quite ready yet for underground utilities.
Which means our next order of lumber needs to get here ASAP so we can keep moving.
We're catching up on projects in the meantime.
Like splitting more firewood, for family and maybe for sale.
Every little bit helps, and we have several chores.
It also helps as we clean up the yard as we head into fall.
So long as fall stays a while, I'm ready for it. Let's jump in. So this is our volunteer garden. And by volunteer, I mean all of this was kitchen scraps and overgrown vegetables that we fed to our pigs last year. But you can see that there's some that are coming along nicely. And tomatoes. We have some tomatoes in here. There might also be one or two peppers that probably won't come to anything. They're much too late. We're already through most of the hot season. If you have a kitchen scrap pile, a compost pile, and you start getting, this sort of thing coming up, you can eat a lot of the different types of vegetables that will come out of these. You just have to be aware that very likely they will be tougher. They may not have the same flavor. And you definitely want to just double check and see once you know exactly what you've got. And even if we don't choose to eat those vegetables, our chickens or our pigs can and will eat those vegetables. So we're right next to the house, and this, you can see the orange lines, is roughly the trench that's going to get cut for our septic pressurized line to go up to the upper field, and for our shop's septic sewage line coming down the hill, which is non-pressure. It's got to stay 5 foot off of the stem wall, minimum setback. So he's going to cut me a trench about like that, and it's going to run up. He runs the 2-inch pipe, our contractor does, also stays off of the post, and then it's going to curve around and head up to join the line that goes through the field. So we run into a little bit of a delay in some of our logistics, shall we say. So we're going through and building the walls out faster than I had anticipated we would be at this point, and we've had some delays related to a vacation on the part of my salesman at the lumber yard. So we're either going to have to wait for a while to get the posts that we need to finish out the first floor's critical walls, the exterior walls and the interior shear walls, or I'm gonna have to do a built-up post. I've already gotten approval to do a built-up post from the engineer, so let me show you what it's going to entail. So built-up post is basically just the width that you need, in this case a 2x6, 5.5 inches, and minimum of the same depth or greater of the member that you're replacing, the post that you're replacing. Code stipulates that all of the members, all the laminates is what they call it, have to be joined minimum to the same depth as the last laminate minus a quarter of its total developed length. And so that means you need a screw or a nail or a lag bolt replacement such as this that will go through almost all the way through the entirety of the boards. And so there's a pattern to it, and if you nail or screw or bolt from both sides, then it's basically 1, 2, 3, so it alternates which side it's on. And if you're nailing all from the same side, then you just put 2 within a certain distance. I think it's 2 inches at the top, and then you go down 8 inches and do it again. And so that's what we're going to be doing, 6x6 post first, and we'll be laminating that up. All right, so we have finished building our first built-up post. This is what we have. Basically, it's every 8 inches. You have to drop 2 of them. You can bring it in from the other side, or you can bring it in from the same side. Doesn't matter. It'll allow you to do it either way. You want to get all the way through except for 1/4 of the depth of the last laminated piece, which that's what these bolts are designed for. These timber screws, they're SDW strong drive. So does it math out? About $20 for that number of bolts, $40 package, and this is not with professional discounts or anything like that. It's just straight up retail prices. So you've got $20 in. Right now studs are 12 bucks minus. So let's say you get your discounts in, and that's realistically $60. A 6x10 right now is about $50. Now, if you're laminating up a 6x8, that math changes. Those are more expensive, and the bolts aren't substantially more expensive. And these are for 10-foot walls, and that's like 26 bolts or so, instead of 24 at packs of 50. So it maybe makes sense for a 6x8, maybe doesn't make as much sense for a 6x6, but if you need them, you're not gonna be out that much money. Here's our 6x8 built-up beam. That is done. And boy, did my driver not like that on a day like today where it's already hot. Over here is our 6x6 built-up beam, or post rather. We've got a wall laid out, ready for nailing. And this wall is going to be butted up against the other interior shear wall, so I can put this one up and then stand that interior shear wall up against it. But I can't do the far wall until this is done and that is done. So let's knock out, at least we can get one more thing done today. Let's knock out this wall here and get that all nailed together and ready for sheathing. Okay, so we need to get ready to lift.
Lift or just push?
Oh, right, we need to push. Get ready, yeah, that one. Get ready to
pound
push.
in that stupid nail.
Stupid nail?
Stupid nail right there.
Oh, look at it. Yeah, give it a whacky crack.
That's a stupid nail.
Yeah, I'll stay away from you.
It's not a hammer, Mel.
It is a hammer.
Oh, it's not a shovel.
Go further from my end. Or about there. Yeah, mine's about an inch more. So that's not bad. It'll suck it straight through. Just that big. Got it, or we can go down. It's fine very much. We good? My side is fine, how's yours?
Okay.
Hold on. Slipped a little bit. I don't know how far because the middle was already worse. Ease it up carefully.
What do you want to do? Up or down?
Just gentle. Oh yeah, mine came out a little bit.
All right, that is flushed. Let me try and hammer it in with this. If it doesn't work, then we'll nail your side and work our way back this way. That's closer-ish. Maybe nail bend side from below and then back up and we'll
do something that will make it come over.
You can kind of see as you come along, now that we have the rest of the wall up, that we have a shorter door. So the front door, which for us is really going to be more like a back door because it's going out onto the deck and then down a hefty flight of stairs to get to the ground. So we'll more commonly probably use the utility door and the dining room door. But you can see that that door and that window back there and these are all in line, and that was per the plans, and we decided not to try and change them, in part because this beam up here is larger than all of the other beams. It's taller, and so we couldn't have made those headers match up unless we changed the header height on all of the other windows and doors. And we just didn't feel like trying to deal with that, especially because it would mean that we didn't get to have the really nice big dining room door, which we're excited about. So we made the choice to go ahead and follow the plans and have just this east face of the house, all of the header heights for windows and doors line up and be a little bit lower. Now, the only really funny part is right behind me here. And so these are all the same size of windows. And in hindsight, the windows are already ordered. In hindsight, I could have taken that window and had it come down the extra distance, potentially, to get them all to more or less line up. I didn't think about it. I'm not really worried about it. It's my office and I'm not gonna be bothered by it. So it is what it is. It's still just an absolutely beautiful house, and you can see like we're gonna have some great views. Let me show you the views out some of these windows. Office facing east, office forest view facing north, foyer, stairway really, but foyer view. We've got our huge windows for the living room. Again, facing out into just a really pretty forest. Living room facing up the driveway. Dining room facing up the driveway. Dining room facing out towards the forest. This is the utility. Just an incredibly muggy, hot day. My camera barely handled doing any filming at all. So I'm gonna give you just a quick rundown on progress today. That's the utility wall, and this, ready almost to be put up, is the interior shear wall, utility to kitchen. We have up the rest of the east facing wall, which is office on the left, and foyer and stairs on the right. So I've just lifted the wall behind me here for the interior shear wall between the dining kitchen area and the utility room, and that's this guy back here. And a couple of things that I wanted to mention about that. So first, your exterior sheathing is going to go ahead and pass by, so it is going to tie in these two outside walls. Second, the interior sheathing goes all the way through, so it doesn't terminate on that exterior wall. It goes through and then you put up that wall, or in our case, we stand up the wall from this way vertical, and then that's how I did that attachment. I put a stripe of nails down on the inside there, right into through this plate board all the way down. And then wherever there's a joist, I have this bottom plate down here interconnected through that space. But this one is also all the way along the outside on the rim joist. So it's a pretty good interconnection, and it's nice to have that wall up. So I only put the outside nails that were gonna get covered up by the cross wall into the sheathing. And that's so that I can, in this case, since it's easy to work with, I can just throw the wall up and then level it out, get both walls nice and plumb, and then I can lock it in place by nailing up that sheathing. The other piece is I'm going to toenail in the jack, or the the studs that are in between these two boards, I believe there's two of them, after I'm done putting in these two hold downs. It's gonna be a lot easier for me to work that if they're out. Always gotta fire a couple of nails when I switch from the 3-inch framing nails to the sheathing nails, just because the difference in what it needs to drive is pretty substantial and they're very finicky. So if I fire 3 or 4, then I'll see how much it's going to come down. I want to hit that pretty much 60 psi right on the button, and you can set it to that, but it doesn't stay after you fired a few nails, so then you have to go back and touch it again. It's okay. 2-inch on center is fine. No expense at all with nails. 2-inch on center, it's great.
Just from clearing the trees we had to cut for our buildings and driveway, we probably generated 3 to 4 cords worth of wood. Even being judicious, we cut another 3 cords of wood or so out of the first pasture to open it up a bit.
The majority of the wood we have now is maple, maybe half, and the rest is maybe 3/4 Doug fir and 1/4 white oak. All these are good burning woods when seasoned, though oak is better than the others.
Our house will have a wood-burning cooking stove in the living room, and we intend on using it for a good portion of our wintertime heating needs. But that won't be this winter, and we are estimating we will likely only need about 3 cords a year.
The majority of our 5 acres will get the same thinning and brushing treatment next year as preparation for us to plant our orchard, so we invested in a log splitter this year. It saved me from having to deal with flare-ups of carpal tunnel and has also saved a ton of time.
They keep their value fairly well around here too, so if we come to a point where we don't feel like we need it anymore, we should be able to get a good value back out of it.
It's a nice way for us to make a little supplemental income on the farmstead as we get up and running. In our area, we can sell a cord of fir or maple at around $225 or $250 delivered, and oak at around $275.
The same as the wood chip, this is something we were going to have to deal with one way or another. That said, between fuel costs, maintenance costs on equipment, it's a pretty low wage for the time it takes to produce the cordage. So even if we had a larger acreage, it's not a long-term plan.
So a couple notes on the kitchen wall as we build that out. So the kitchen is right next to the foyer, which includes the stairs. I've marked off the change between the kitchen wall and the foyer wall because the foyer wall is actually going to be ballooned. So it doesn't have any floor joists coming over to it. It's not interrupted by that. And so we have to balloon it up to the second floor. Otherwise it would be a hinge point. It's only 11 feet long, so it's not a huge balloon wall, but that's where we're connecting in there, and we're doing the balloon wall later. So we have to terminate the kitchen wall right in line with this interior divider wall, and that meant a couple of pieces that I had to make a decision on. So the first is, can't have a blocked off, this is the on center, and this is the end of the wall. Can't have this space blocked off for insulation, and so in order to get this as a nailing surface, with it not being a 4 foot on center, I made the decision to go ahead and just run another board out. One of the things that I did for this is all of these studs were the best that I could find in my pile of studs for basically, 2/3 of the first floor. So they are straight as I can find, and they have as little crowning as I could find. What crown they have is faced upwards like any other wall so that it will go to the exterior, but I'm hoping that they're minimal crowning, especially the ones that aren't right at the windows. The jacks I didn't care as much about, even the kings, because they're not going to directly bear cabinet weight, but all of the other studs are going to bear cabinet weight and are going to have, that impact of really holding the cabinets, and you don't want them to have a substantial interior slope. We'll actually be able to just raise it and toenail it in and raise it up straight, because we're already overlapped the sheathing from the other wall coming this way, so there's not going to be as much of a need for us to slide it once it's up. It's just going to stand up where it's at and then nail into this big old built up beam or post there. So we're going to get this one knocked out real quick, and then other than the balloon wall, the only exterior wall we have left is this little bitty wall on the other side of the balloon wall. So I'm going to try and get that one ready to go, and that one will have sheathing that will go outwards, but it's such a small wall, it's easy. I can probably just do that by myself, stand it and slide it into position.
We didn't have any complaints?
No, he didn't have any complaints. Said the system looked really good. We've got the two walls on the top here joined in the corner, and we are ready to install one of the hole downs. So this one is extended by 5/8 inch rod, threaded. It comes down through the floor and then joins into a coupler nut, and the coupler nut allows you to adjust the tension after this piece is installed without having to use that nut right there, which is what holds it all together at the top. And that joins this column, which is several 2x6s joined together. It's what it's called for in this particular location. In others, a 4x6 or a 6x6 are used. And this just takes a nail in every single one of those holes. What we're looking at here is an HDU8 bracket. This is one of 4 of this very large hole down that is required in the first floor on the section that's the dining room connecting to the living room and the dining room or the kitchen connecting to the utility. You can see this is some serious hardware. So big chunk of metal connecting in with a 7/8 inch bolt. Let's go ahead and get this installed. It slides down onto there. And then it's got this piece here. Just goes over. There we go. This sits in there. And we just got, let's see if I can get this started. I had to cut that. All right, I think I finally got it to start. It takes some work to get that thing to come down though. I think once we get past the cut bit, let's see if I can get you in there to see this. Once we get past the bit where I cut the bolt, it should go on a little easier maybe. So you can see, it's really not that big of a deal to drive them in once they get going. They drive really well, these little screws do. Big screws, whatever you want to call those. Essentially, they're just miniature lag bolts. So it's just a matter of getting that housing in, and then I can tighten that nut down to get this truly synced into and holding on a tight basis downwards. But I also can go to the double threaded nut below and tighten on that, and it will really keep this just really nice and tight.
Thanks for watching.
See you next time.